I'm Charlotte Jones, co-host of the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete, conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, a longtime civil rights crusader, and author of 7 books. Creative Insubordination, What Old Men Know, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Poet Emperor of Earth, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run. Plus, another upcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. His books are available on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year, and a Detroit track is named for him. His email is drjohnttelford@aol.com. That's dr.johntelford@aol.com. Dr. Telford also has a show on WCHB AM 1340 that airs on Saturdays at 9:30 in the morning and Mondays at 6:30 in the evening. That's on WCHB AM 1340, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. And now, without further ado, I present to you that old native Detroiter, the one and only Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Char J., author of A Ain't Always for Apple. A Ain't Always for Apple, an erotic
Adult.
alphabet book. An erotic adult alphabet book.
Adult.
An erotic adult alphabet book. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town, and I'm reading this from the Downtown Monitor because I got this poem in the Downtown Monitor this month. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And we've got a new sky dawning on Detroit today because Audra Kubat is in the studio today.
Welcome.
Audra Kubat, the great musician, the great educator, the great everything. So Audra, welcome to the John Telford Detroit Show with Char J., my co-host.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with both of you.
Well,
Glad you're here.
We're going to be listening to some of your fine music, some of your fine compositions today.
Yeah.
But first, we want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I have been doing music in Detroit for about 25 years now. I have 7 albums out.
I've been doing it since you were 5 then, right?
Yeah, since I was 5. But I grew up on the west side of Detroit, so I'm proud Detroit is my hometown.
Where'd you grow up?
Rosedale Park.
Oh yeah, Rosedale
Yeah, you
Park.
said that's where
right,
that's where they eat cake, and I was like, well,
the cake eating kids.
The cake eaters.
Grew up. I grew up in 16th Street in McGraw. So
right,
I wasn't
right.
eating a lot of cake.
Yeah.
But so keep telling us about yourself.
Yeah, so I started playing music. Really, I had a boyfriend who had a guitar. Well, really, I started playing piano by ear when I was a kid.
By ear.
And and so my parents tried to get me into lessons, and I totally was like, no. I was already doing, kind of figuring out chords, and I could hear, play melodies, and so going back to the dun dun.
You favor the strings.
Couldn't
you
do
favor
it.
the strings.
I do. I love strings.
You play the violin.
I play the violin, not very well, enough to play on my albums. So I do a lot of backup playing. I'm not a lead soloist or anything, but I play I call it the fiddle when I play because
Yeah, I call it that
you know,
too.
squeak
Maybe
it
I
out.
get my fiddle out. I learned to play the fiddle at Estabrook Elementary School over on Linwood and McGraw way back in the early 1940s.
Oh yeah, way before my time.
Oh yeah, way before everybody's time. I'm 87.
Before everybody's time.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But
so yeah,
keep
I
talking
came back to music. I wanted to sing when I was young, and I wasn't a great singer. I had to kind of teach myself to sing. In fact, I would sing along to Joni Mitchell albums.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of really where I learned to sing. I mean, I grew up in a house that my dad was a great singer. My mom could play piano, although they didn't go, that was not their career routes. They were in education and on the therapy end of life. I was always being analyzed as a child. How are you feeling about that? You're like, oh my God, I want to scream. But so I learned to sing by singing along to great singers and kind of mimicking them. So when I first started playing and writing songs, people would say, oh, you sound like Joni Mitchell. And I was like, of course. Because I had learned so much from her. Because she could sing sort of the low parts and all the high parts and really could do anything with her voice. And like lyrically, she was always doing really interesting things with her lyrics. She was really telling stories. She was being very personal about her stories, and her songwriting was very inspiring to me.
So how do you classify it? What style do you say your music is?
Yeah, it's folk music, folks for folks like you, made by folks, So I think I use songs to tell people stories, to talk about heartbreak and pain and the traditional reasons that life, right? That's why people, kind of do that folk and that traditional kind of music. It's about healing. It's about vulnerability. And so I use music to kind of do that work.
Ever hear this song? I got tears in my ears, lying on my back, crying over you.
Oh, yeah, see. Sounds like an old Hank Williams or something.
Yeah, I don't know where it's from, but it used to crack me up. Did you know Joni Whitman? She was also a singer around Detroit. The Lenny somebody trio. I can't remember. This whole long time ago.
I don't know if I heard of them.
Well,
but
you're too
I
young. I go way so far back. I go back when who was the Native American singer and the folk singer from Canada. She used to come to the Hungry Eye. Trying to think of her name.
Oh, the Hungry Eye.
Yeah.
I know about the Bluebird Cafe that they're rehabbing that Bluebird over on the west side somewhere.
See, I predate everybody. I'll talk about
Then you know this. This was my grandpa's song. Heart of my heart, I love that melody. Heart of my heart brings back those memories when we were kids. Yeah. So I grew up with being in the car with my grandpa and my dad, singing harmony to Heart of My Heart.
And you're also an educator. Where do you educate?
So I work for a couple nonprofits in Detroit, Inside Out Literary Arts Project. I work for them. I work for Living Arts Detroit. They're like West Side, kind of Mexican town, Mexican village area, and. I started doing songwriting with youth in the name of David Blair. Blair, one of our Detroit poets who we lost some years ago now. In fact, I have his guitar here with me.
Wow.
And he got me in the classroom the first time. He was doing songwriting with Inside Out Literary Arts Project, and he brought me in the classroom, and I just fell in love with writing songs with kids. And after he passed, they reached out and said, will you continue to do the songwriting workshops that Blair was doing? So that was my first toe in to okay, they're bringing me in as a teaching artist. And sort of since then, other organizations kind of began to look at me and bring me forward. I teach for Oakland University right now as a songwriter, so I teach songwriting.
Oh, all right, okay.
For the older ones too. So I work with people of all ages. I use songwriting with elders in different ways. We write songs about the gardens. I work with the DSO right now. I'm a part-time.
Oh, wow.
I'm building with a partner of mine an educational program for kids based in using music to sort of inspire parents and educators.
My
to
grandson
use my music.
is in the DSO junior orchestra. He plays violin.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
My old colleagues in the Denby Orchestra were in the DSO. This is so long ago. That's when I got put on Northwestern and ended up at Denby. I was, athlete there and a musician there. I was in the orchestra. And Alvin Score was in that orchestra, and Clark Sist, and Mario Di Fiore, the cellist. That was a heck of an orchestra. Marjorie Aber was the director. But again, I'm going way
He
back.
always does. I think I saw in here somewhere that you were a publisher too, or something. Or did I see that?
Yeah. Well, I have my own label, Remedy Records.
Okay.
I put out my first album in '99.
Wow.
With my own label, because basically I didn't have a label, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make one
one.
up.
Yeah,
Isn't that what people do?
Yes.
So I put my first couple albums out on Remedy Records, and then that way, when I was finally sort of like dealing with a small, like an independent label, like I was kind of like, well, I've already, I had something to bring to the table, and I encourage artists out there and folks to just name it, just start. It's like if you need a booking agent, start your, make up your own name and start booking yourself.
That's what my son
and use
did.
that use that as a way to negotiate money and talk about the things that for artists often are hard to talk about. I think overall we have to get to a place where artists can understand their own value and decide like, okay, this is how much it's going to cost to get me to play. When you don't have that, sometimes it's nice to have, the pseudo booking agent that can say, Audra Kubat will come for this amount, and this is an award-winning artist. To talk about yourself in third person is such a great practice, actually, to like really see and think about like the value that you have. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about Inside Out. What is that and where is it?
Sure. So Inside Out Literary Arts Project is housed in Wayne State, and they place writers, and I'm a songwriter, but like writers, poetry into classrooms to work with kids of all ages. So I work with a second and third, fourth, fifth grade usually, and do songwriting with kids because we know that all of these young people aren't going to necessarily be poets or songwriters, but we know that the performative skills that they practice when they stand up in front of a classroom and say, this is what I believe, or these are the things I'm thinking about, we know that those are skills that will take them really far when they get into that interview situation or that they're like going to that next step. So they place artists and poets into classrooms to help kids find their voices, to inspire them to speak proudly and bravely, and so they're a great organization. They always can use more support.
Because Wayne State has like a publishing house or something. I read something, publishing house or printing house.
WSU
Yeah.
Press.
Yeah,
When you
there
say
you go.
University
Yeah.
Press.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's some crossover in the work that they do, because I know with Inside Out, at the end of like the work that you do in a classroom, they publish a book. So you might, like I was at Gompers and Gardner, and they're now working on the book of songs and poems that were created over the year. And so the children can, really feel like they have a book in their hand. They're published writers, they are poets, they are songwriters. So
Are you going to share some music with us?
I would love to.
Okay, let's hear something. Tell us what you're gonna play.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the song, and then let's hear you sing the song.
Yeah, I'm gonna play. The first song is called "Oh Mother," and it's a song that I wrote. It's a kind of an activist climate crisis song, about really it's an ode to this beautiful earth that we live on. So "Oh Mother" is sort of the mother.
Just give us a little taste of what you got. Come on.
Oh, mother of light, mother of days, you wait for the words that we promise to say. We stand in your shadow but must sit by your side to hear your song in the winds blowing wild. And I trust in the world you have given to us. I will fight with my bones and my fists if I must, to shatter the walls they put up with fear. I'll break all the rules just to keep her here. Oh, mother of mountains, mother of fire, I climb your highest ridges and I light the pyre to burn down ashes, watch the power recede. And I trust in the world you have given to us. I will fight with my songs and my words if I must, to tear down the fences and take down the flags. Let's undraw the lines that divide us in half. Oh, mother of oceans, mother of grace, please won't you tell me that it's not too late? Your bodies of water soon won't run clear, and the men on the hill, they just don't seem to care. And I trust in the world you have given to us. I will fight with my fingers tooth nail if I must. And I study your body, I hold a space in your name. With all that I am, I will work for change. Oh, mother of glory, mother of grace, oh please won't you tell me that it's not too late?
You know what?
Beautiful.
I will play
Absolutely
with
beautiful.
my songs in fists
If I
must.
I must.
You know, that has a kind of a Celtic lilt to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was Irish or Scottish,
A little
which I'm drinking, by the way.
sing-songy.
I'm drinking a little scotch this morning. But you know that was just tremendous.
Beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thank you very much.
You know, I pride myself on liking music from all genres, and I really, if I don't like it, I don't like it, but I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you very
Right.
much. It's like the activism too, kind of. That's one of the songs
The
that really
words,
is
yeah.
like working, trying to inspire change and. Mm-hmm.
So,
So let's see. How did you get started, and when did you begin to write your own
okay.
song?
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit, you know, kind of. I wrote my first song when I was about 17 years old when I met a boy who had a guitar. I left the boy, but I kept the guitar. And I started. He taught me a few chords on the guitar, and I kind of just, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, here's this. I was writing poetry already. I used to go to the Gotham City Cafe when it was on Woodward way back in the day, and I'd write poetry, and I was like, I thought I was going to be a painter too. I would like draw, and I was like, I'm going to be a visual artist. And I was writing these poems, and people would go up to the open mic, and they would sing and play guitar, and I was like, that is so great. So when I learned a couple chords, I just started kind of putting the poetry to music. And again, I said like I wasn't a great singer. Well, my friend had turned me on to Joni Mitchell, so that's when I was like singing along to her, and so that's kind of really what got me started. And I just kept going, and eventually, I think the first time I played the open mic, actually, I couldn't play even guitar yet, and I sang a James Taylor song, and I remember my friend saying, "Well, you can really sing," and I was like, "I can really? Oh my gosh!" And so I just kept going and going with that, and now I'm 49, and I've been doing it since that long, really, however many years that is.
so once you heard Joni Mitchell, she has like kind of a sultry, raspy kind of thing. So you said, "Oh, I could do that."
Yeah, yeah. And then it was like also those really like head voice notes. I was like, how does she do that? And so I kind of had to just train myself by mimicking her, and then finally I learned to do the head voice where you could do that, ooh, you know, that sound. So, yeah.
The folk singer I was trying to think of was Buffy St. Marie.
Oh yeah.
I love Buffy St. Marie. She used to come to the Hungry Eye, and I met her, you know, several times.
Detroit was such a hub for I mean, it has been a hub for music for decades and decades, and so but yeah, there was a folk scene. Joni Mitchell lived in Detroit too for a while, and
Yep, right.
yeah.
So, what is your music sound like? I mean, we have heard some of the sound, but again, talk a little bit about why you write music, what inspired you to write music.
Yeah, I think it was my own healing that brought me to the writing, you know, to writing the poetry, writing songs, was like just dealing with trauma. And the more that I did it, the more I felt like I was kind of getting something out when I would sing. And then eventually I started sort of figuring out that like that was doing healing for other people, and like that music could sort of like heal on this like deeper level. And so I kind of used like my own vulnerability, like sharing my own pain, to inspire and to help other people kind of deal with it. And as I started doing it out more, people come up to me and like, oh, that song really touched me, or that reminded me of my relationship with my dad, or that reminded me of like, some pain that I had, and I was able to cry, listening to your song. And so music just, music can do that work. And so I was like, this is my path, is like to be using music to sort of heal, to inspire, to make change in our lives, to comfort. There's all these different reasons why music does these things, and like I wanted to figure out how to be really intentional about it.
The only song I ever wrote in grade school when I was just elementary.
Okay.
Because we had a teacher that liked to teach us a little French, and so I wrote a song that I said I want this to be a dance, a little dance. How do you say little dance in French?
I can't remember.
Well, she told me.
Danse.
Petite bourrée, petite bourrée. So I wrote a piece called Petite Bourrée for the violin, and I actually played it as a solo, and a violist from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra heard me play it in a recital we had at Estabrook Elementary, and he asked my mother if he could give me free lessons and teach me the theory and harmony, musical theory and harmony, and if I would play in his orchestra. He had an orchestra called the Detroit Fiddlers Band. And I don't know if you remember anything about the Detroit Fiddlers Band, but it was a youth orchestra. And anyway, I don't want to get too far into that because I want to interview you.
Well, I like your stories.
How many albums do you have?
I have 7 albums. I put out an album right before the pandemic. It feels like those 2 years just kind of disappeared. But I have lots of music out in the world. You can find it really anywhere you can find music. I'm on Spotify. I have a website, AudraKubat.com.
Say that again.
AudraKubat.com.
Spell it out.
AudraKubat.com.
That's your website.
That's my website, but you can, if you Google my name, lots of things will come up, and I have a lot of projects I'm working on right now that I'd be excited to talk about. Detroit House of Music is one, and things that I'm doing with the house that I work in and live in.
Okay, Audra, say your name again and spell it out.
Sure, Audra Kubat, and it's AudraKubat, and you can Google me, you'll find me, and I'd love to tell you about Detroit House of Music if you want to hear about that.
I'd love to have you do that.
Yeah. So I have this house I've been working on 14th and 94 area. It's in Northwest Goldberg, which is kind of right between New Center and like kind of Wayne State area. It's in this like kind of pocket where it's this neighborhood. A lot of houses have been taken out, but the people that live there are like, these are generational houses that people live in. There's a lot of wonderful people in my neighborhood. So I started working on this house about 4.5 years ago, to turn it into a space for music education, music experiences.
Sounds almost like Motown.
Yeah, it could be really like local and razor focused sort of in that neighborhood. And so some years later now, we've had our first shows. We had a couple outside during the pandemic, but we had a wonderful show in February, and then we just had a brunch show. And so that first floor has been completely transformed into like a performance space. So there's tons of instruments on the wall. There's like an instrument library where we've been collecting instruments. We haven't quite loaned instruments out yet. We're getting to that point, but we accept instruments. So we have a ton of musical instruments. We have a beautiful couple pianos, a baby grand piano there that was donated to the house.
How do people get the instruments to you if you wanted?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on my website. You can connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. All of those are just the Audra Kubat. If you can find it that way.
Do you have
My-
a phone number that you can give
I
out?
do, I might not. Maybe I don't give my phone number out, but I can give
Email.
you my email is just Audra Kubat.
Email's good, yeah.
My name at Yahoo. You can email me, but you can always just go to the website and
Audra
email me.
Kubat at yahoo.com.
Yeah.
AUDRAKUBAT
At Yahoo.
yahoo.com.
Yeah, and so you
Okay.
can email me, and we will graciously take your instruments. I know a lot of people have instruments in their attics, and or instruments that are not being played. And I think instruments that are not being played is really a travesty. And we have so many young people of all ages really that could benefit from having an instrument in their hand, even if they don't know how to play instruments. I part of what I want to do at the house is really let people that don't play music come and feel what it's like to have someone support them banging on a drum, playing an instrument that they don't know how to play. And I think if you have the right facilitator that can do that, you can really allow people to experience, being a musician without having to be fully trained. And I honor people that have gone through that deep training and that real work. It's an art form that is like really, really takes a lot of dedication. But I don't want music to feel like it's elite, and I don't want music to feel like here's the stage and then all the audience is down here and they don't get to sort of have that. I want people to come in and say, I don't know how to play. Well, here, let's just keep that steady beat together, and that's where it starts, right?
I should hook you up with Ben Piper.
Hook me up.
I should. Ben Piper is the education director at Motown. He was with me at Southeastern High School when I still am the poet in residence. I go around reading my poetry in the DPSCD. But
We should have him on the show.
yeah,
Yeah.
we will. I've been thinking about inviting Ben.
You should.
To
That'd be
come
great.
I'd
I'll
love to
listen
hear.
in. I'll share it out.
You and he would be a good combination to hook up with each other.
Well, and Motown is right down the street from us. In fact, Northwest Goldberg Cares, one of our sort of local nonprofit that works in our neighborhood, we've been doing some connection there because the DSO is going into Northwest Goldberg again this summer, and I help to program the events that happen, and we're looking to partner more with Motown Museum because Motown Museum is actually in Northwest Goldberg because it is on this side.
Northwest Goldberg?
It's just it's a neighborhood that's just south of where the Motown Museum is. So it's on 14th Street, and where 94 kind of crosses, and then it goes all the way to Grand Boulevard.
There used to be a Goldberg school.
I went there.
Northwest Goldberg, right? Or North.
It was just
Northwestern.
No, it was Goldberg Elementary.
there
was
was
on
a-
the corner of 12th and Marquette.
Yeah,
I
went
yeah,
there.
it was over on 12th and Marquette. Matter of fact, when I was
Yes,
at
yes.
when I was at Estabrook Elementary, we used to run from Estabrook to Goldberg to get our vocational teaching and
Well, that's
some
where
of our
that's
phys
the
ed.
neighborhood.
And you know who taught there? Eddie Tolan. Eddie Tolan was a gym teacher there, and he was the first guy that told me. I was 13 years old. He said, "You've got to run track." Eddie Tolan was the 100 and 200 meter champion out of Detroit Cass Tech High out of University of Michigan. That won the 100 and 200 meter dashes in the Olympics in 1933.
I heard you really fast.
Well, I used to be. I was world ranked as a
Yeah.
sprinter, but at this time I was just a little kid, and Eddie Tolan
You brought him in.
was an inspiration to me. He was he probably, in fact, he's probably the fastest 100 meter sprinter, with the exception of Henry Carr, of course, whoever came out of the city of Detroit. He was the first world's fastest human. And again, I'm digressing.
All right, let
but,
me.
yeah,
You're
go ahead.
watching the Dr. John Telford Detroit Show, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Hold on, John. Tomorrow, we have an intimate jazz experience at the beautiful St. Regis Hotel on West Grand Boulevard. We have our WJZZ Legacy Jazz Series. Tomorrow we are featuring Faye Bradford, her tribute to Nina Simone. Tickets are $15 and available on Eventbrite. That starts at 7, so that's tomorrow. And we have those every second and fourth Thursday of the month. We also have in May a day at the races. It's a Kentucky Derby watch party at the Detroit Yacht Club, $75. Tickets are also available on Eventbrite. And if you want one of those beautiful big hats that we wear, you can go over to Miss V's. John's going to give you that information in a minute. Where she'll be offering, if you mention the party or you mention WJZZ, she will give you 15% off one of those big Kentucky Derby church hats, is what I call them. All right, John, what you got?
Thank you, Char, for that wonderful station identification.
You are welcome.
Char, author of A Ain't Always for Apple. And regarding the program tomorrow, I can't make it. I wish I could,
I
but
wish you could too.
you know, I'm going to be back at the River House because I'm running for the River House board, because some folks have asked me to run for the board because they want me to get to the bottom of some underhanded dealings that are going on at the River House over at 8900 East Jefferson. So as a board candidate, the candidates are making their little spiels tomorrow at 6 p.m., so I'm going to miss that.
All right.
But mentioning Miss V, and she's going to be there too, Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known simply as V, the proprietress of V's Boutique for Ladies, which offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories. You can find all sizes of women's fine apparel in V's one-stop excellent customer service at V's Boutique that you can't find anywhere else in Detroit anymore. V's is at 16423 East Warren Avenue, right around the corner from the Alger Theater and right around the corner from one of the few libraries that is still open. And you can contact Miss V if you want to make an appointment at 248-662-6622. That's 248-662-6622. However, if you go there, you're going to have to go to the library to go to the bathroom, because we've been trying to put pressure on the mayor, and so far he has not done so, nor have any of the council done anything about the sidewalk in front of V's place, and under the public sidewalk is a water main that needs to be turned on because there's a broken water main. It's actually a water pipe, and it's been a couple of years now, and hopefully Mayor Duggan or Councilwoman Sheffield or Council.
So let's explain this. What happened is she was closed at that location for a while. While she was closed, they came over and did this cement work, and they blocked access to her water main. That's the issue. So they have to dig up all that work that they've done, and they don't want to do that. So that's the issue.
Yeah, but they have an obligation to do it.
Yeah,
they have
I mean,
a legal responsibility to do it.
And
she should not have to sue them to do it.
Well, I told her to call the news, but she's being so nice. Call the news. Call the problem solvers or somebody.
You have to get Help Me Hank over
or somebody. Yeah, call somebody. Speak up. You know, she has to.
I think that's what's going to happen. But anyway, we are interviewing musician, educator, folk singer Audra Kubat on the John Telford Detroit Show this morning on WJZZ. And Audra, I want to ask you this. What do you hope to accomplish with your musical work? What are some of the goals that you have in that regard?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about just using music for healing, for growth, for change, for activating. And I hope to just kind of continue to use it as a way to inspire. I've been thinking a lot about the sort of the future of music here in Detroit. We often have people that leave Detroit when they think they have to go make it. I did that myself. I went to New York when I was, starting out to try to do something there. I went down to different places that I was like, oh yeah, you got to go out somewhere else. And it's like, what I really am hoping that, not only do we have such a plethora of talent here in the city, that people that are here that kind of, you go down and you get your Detroit t-shirt and you get your Detroit beer and you want to get your local greens and you want to support that way. It's like, how can we extend that into our musical and art communities so that really I would like to see more real local engagement to, why do we have to leave Detroit?
Right.
Let's
we should
figure
have been
out
able to do that here.
Right, why can't we do that here now? And so it's like from, what's being played in the elevator down at, Dan Gilbert's building down there. It's like, well, why isn't it local music? Why aren't we using local music
You mean
for
the shadow mayor of
different
Detroit?
spots? You know,
Well, he started a music label, didn't he? So you would think that.
I
you know,
worked for actually Detroit Institute for Music Education, and it was Dane Gilbert supported the space. He gave us a break on the space because he owned the building,
Right.
one of the Rock Financial buildings or something. And it's like,
I'm trying to prevent them
Right.
from taking over our building.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily
Right.
Dan Gilbert.
but my
the
point
Audras or
is just
somebody.
that that how can we employ local artists more? Doing like often we'll do events and we like realize, wow, they brought in people from so and so, or like they're bringing someone in from there. It's like, even at the river event they did last year, it was like all the artists, like we have all these great Detroit artists, and they had
And that's,
like artists from different places that they're paying a lot of money to come and
Right.
perform. It's like, well, why aren't we?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of local artists that would want to
Right.
play.
Why
That's,
wasn't Sky Covington playing? Why wasn't
John Weiss or something? He books the talents for
okay,
those things.
well,
Yeah. So those,
know.
those people are who we, I guess, need to be reaching out to, because you're right. We have a lot of talent here, and we should be using our local
Let's
talent.
use local talent.
Right.
Like the same, and we have to inspire people, like I said, that want to wear their Detroit shirt to like actually put the money where the mouth is and support what really is happening, not just like buy a T-shirt. We like that if it's a Detroit venue or vendor, great. You're buying a Detroit shirt, but then come down and go to more places than just the Caesar Arena or the places that keep people right in the place. Go out to those smaller venues, buy local art, buy local people's recordings, and there are people out there that are doing it. And I want to thank those people, because I feel very supported. People have bought my music. People have like paid me to come and play at their spaces. So I want to, in the same breath, thank the people that are doing that, because we love you.
But ask people to do more. So we're going to combine a couple of these questions because they all kind of go together, and we're getting short on time.
Before we do that, though, I would like to hear you inspire us with another piece of music, if that's a possibility.
Let her answer these, and then do that, and then we'll go into like a different stage of questions. So this is about her education. So you are an educator, so you use music to educate. How did you get started in music education, and why is music education important? So important.
Yeah, so I came into it kind of through somebody giving me a chance to go into the classroom and start doing, songwriting with youth. I really started on the porch at my house in Woodbridge, where I would be out playing the guitar, and like some kids, started coming by and like, oh, what are you doing, and they started coming up on the porch, and I started teaching kind of like really naturally that way. And now, through just beginning to be known as an educator, more and more organizations started to believe in me. I work for Living Arts Detroit also, like I said, and they paid for my professional development. I've like been to, had a lot of like education support to be where I'm at, and I began to work for Detroit Institute for Music as a songwriter, because they just saw the street cred that I had. They were like, well, your name keeps coming up as a songwriting person. And I was like, well, and so they brought me in and they helped get me some more support so I could be more legitimized, and now I work for Oakland University. So that's kind of how I got started, and like now I'm 12 years into that work. Music education is extremely important. We know, especially I'm talking about infant toddlers, that using music to help them communicate before they even have words, they're using sounds. They're connecting with music. We know that connecting steady beat to learning outcomes helps us. That's why we sing the frickin' alphabets. The ABCs. That's why we do it. That's why, because when you can, even at people that are in their later years and struggling to remember can come up with a song, right? So we know combining music with education is really helpful. We don't have the programming in schools like we used to. You used to get to like pick an instrument, and it still happens in some places, but like a lot of places, a lot of schools have their instruments are locked up in a room, because they don't have the resources necessarily to have that. So if we don't at least have children with instruments in their hand and getting to learn to read music, we need to see that we just need to be using music more and pairing that with education, you know, because it's a learning tool.
So what are you going to sing for us next?
Yeah. Well, I could go the activism route.
Yeah, go to the activism
still,
route. I love that
Well,
route.
we
Yeah.
don't have time for a whole song, so hit
Okay.
us with, you know.
I'll do just a little tiny bit of a song that I did with Jessica Caramore.
Okay.
The sculpted and praised, great glory parade, hollow men disgracing pedestals, traitors of their time. Oh, say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, the evidence is indisputable, and the golden edge, which once gleamed, is tearing at the seam. The stars and stripes are unraveling. Then the words of men get lost on the wind, and their silence now is deafening. Time for a reckoning, a great awakening, the next American Revolution. There's just a little taste. So
Yeah.
you'll have to go online. my
Yeah,
friends out there
don't just give it
will-
all to them. Let them go look for it, get it,
Yeah.
and buy it.
American Revolution.
Check it out with Detroit poet and activist Jessica Caramore's on that track.
So tell us about your current projects and what do you have, space plans that you have for the Detroit House of Music?
Yeah, so currently I'm working with the DSO, helping to create a musical toolbox for kids, for families and educators to use in the classroom and at home. So I'm using music and modeling how to use this musical box that has shakers and scarves and some chimes in it. So that's one of the projects I'm working on. I also am working with Wolf Trap Detroit to do some residencies with teachers and parents. And Detroit House of Music is like kind of my passion project. During the pandemic, I built a garden because I didn't know what to do. I lost all my jobs, but I had this house I'd been working on. I said, well, how do you connect with people in a neighborhood? I was new to that neighborhood. I'm from Detroit, but I'm not from Northwest Goldberg. So I started to build a community garden by myself. I didn't have a community yet to help me, but I had the garden. And I had a lot of musician friends that came out and helped with the house when we first had to do a lot of rehab, and because it was full of everything, and but didn't have pipes. It didn't have anything, but it was full of everything, right? So when I started the garden, I began like, how do I get invited to the party? You know, here I am in this neighborhood and I don't know anybody. I said, I'm going to wave to every single person that walks by, drives by, and the only way I could do it is if I was out in the garden. So I started to grow tomatoes. And I was like, what's the way to the heart of the people is a good tomato, because you can't get one at the freaking grocery store, right? So I started growing tomatoes and I waved to every single person that walked by. Then I started to get the stop and chat, like, well, what are you doing here? Who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm Audra and I'm a musician and I'm working on this house and I'm building a garden. And in a few months I'm going to have tomatoes. I'd love to give you some. Come by. So that, you know, and started so many different conversations of people just stopping by. And so over the years, now 3 years, 4 years later, you know, I got people that come and feel free to pick out of the garden. I have neighbors that I've delivered, you know, Lula May, I've got a almost 95, 96-year-old neighbor who I'm helping to get the lot that's next to them because they are elderly and they didn't know how to get it, but we need to help get these people that have been in the neighborhood to know that they can buy side lots and help them build their family equity. And so her property's next to mine, so I would deliver tomatoes and bring her flowers, and you know, it was just the way to start. And then years later now I've like been able to employ my neighbor who's a carpenter because
Whoa.
I got to know them.
Right.
And it was like, well, why? And this is the same local thing I'm talking about music. It's like, who in your neighborhood is the plumber? Who in your neighborhood is the carpenter? Who in your neighborhood does music?
Right.
Connect with those people. We don't need to be continuing to like grab outside of our neighborhoods.
Right.
And that's how we can help our own neighborhoods, is like, if you're out there and you don't know your neighbors, like that's the first way to doing any kind of active work, is like, who are your neighbors? You know, so that's the kind of work I'm doing at Detroit House of Music. So come by and see the garden, and come see a show, help support.
I have nearly 500 neighbors that live in my house.
You don't know none
It's
of
called the River House.
Yeah, you don't
and
know
they're
none
trying
of them
to take it
have
over, and that's
Right.
what we're fighting to stop. But what is the address of your house?
5603 14th Street, Detroit House of Music. If you go online, we have a presence there. We have a Facebook page, and you can find out what kind of music we're doing. And we're doing some like just workshops where we have a ladies' day that we get together and we just like talk about things. It's like non-binary, so like almost all
Are you
people are
south
welcome.
or north of the boulevard?
We are south of the boulevard.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're watching the WJZZ Cool TV live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. So, now we've got a few minutes. I just need you to kind of sum up, what do you want people to know? How do you want them to reach out to you? Give us a spiel.
Yeah. So again, my name is Audra Kubat. You can find my website at audrakubat.com. You can follow me on all social media if you'd like. I'm on Spotify. I have a YouTube channel. I would love to connect with you, see you at a show, and just continue to, thrive and help support each other thriving.
What would you like? That's what you'd like to be doing in the next 5 years, or?
Oh my gosh, the next 5 years.
And beyond.
Yeah, I still have that big dream of getting a big song out there and all of those things. But I also understand that I want to thrive locally and I want to support a local economy. So the next 5 years I'm going to be continuing to build the fruit garden. We have fruit trees that are started. I'd love to connect with some folks that do bees because I'd love to have a native hive.
They've got that going on downstairs. You may want to talk to them too.
Nice. So just, making a space where it's friendly, we can do work there together, and I can continue to also grow as an artist.
What advice do you have for young songwriters?
Listen to great songs. Like if you want to be an author, you need to read a lot of books, right? So as a songwriter, that's my biggest advice is like find songs that you love and think are great, learn them. Learn all the words, figure out why it works, and then, mimic that. There's nothing wrong with like honoring other songs, and that's how songwriters I think start, is they learn other people's songs, and they start to learn what the format is, and then they start plugging their own ideas in. So listen to a lot of great songs.
That's gonna do it for us, John. You got something real quick.
Yeah, well.
And because it kicked me out,
This
I'm gonna get
book
back in.
that I've got coming out, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, I do just what Audra said. I give some credit to another poet. His name was Dylan Thomas, who wrote When I Was Free and Easy Under the Apple Boughs, and that's where I got the title Apple Boughs, because this isn't just about athletes or activism, it's also about all the ladies I knew. Do I have time to do my Trump poem? I probably don't.
Quickly.
Very, very quickly?
Because the music, well, no, here we go now.
Okay, that's all right. I'll do it next time.
You'll do it next time. And it kicked me out, so there we go. Thank you.
You've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and co-host Charlotte Jones on WJZZ Detroit Internet Television, coming to you live every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
We're live.
Contact Dr. Telford at 313
Long hair is good.
460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Or at Dr. John Telford, EDD, at AOL.com. That's DrJohnTelford at AOL.com. To sponsor or appear on this show, or to get signed copies of his book, which Hill Perkins, Jeffrey Feiger, and Dr. Wayne Dyer all call spellbinding and sensational. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Read Dr. Telford's commentaries on the school